Thank you so much for joining me, T.S. O'Banion. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I am very well. I appreciate you making time for me, especially being a little under the weather. So thank you.
Same to you.
I'll just dive right in. It's clear from the DeGrave Brothers that you have a deep love for horror. What were your gateway movies or books or, shows or whatever?
Hello, and welcome to the Spooky Chris podcast. My name is Chris Ringler. I'm your aforementioned Spooky Chris,
shit in the world
and I am honored
I was scared of everything.
this episode to be speaking with
scariest thing in the world to
T.S.
me
O'Banion, the creator and creative force behind
the
podcast,
the
the DeGrave Brothers. It is a root-and-tootin' horror comedy
that was
that
enough to send
has finished
however old
its
I was,
first
just
season
running
and
from
is
my room.
really
I can't let
for fans
Freddy
of
thoughts into my brother had this wall
kind of the
all these
over-the-top
pictures he ripped out of
crazy
magazines, and one of them was a Freddy Krueger one, and it just always
splatter
felt like staring
comedies
at me.
of
I don't know, I was just
yesteryear.
really
This
scared
is
of horror.
absolutely
I always
up your alley.
dark fantasy a lot. Though. As a kid, I liked
with a really fun
Legend
storyline
and
great voice acting,
Labyrinth,
really good
and anything
use of
like
sound
that.
effects. It's
And then I don't know, around
one of those
13,
kind of
it was like I
podcasts that you listen to and you want to listen
I think
to
I
with
saw The
headphones
Crow.
on because
It's
it's
probably
immersive.
Well, really, just
It's
flipped the
really
switch, and I was
something
like,
that
I like
is
the
just
aesthetic, and then I was like,
kind of
and I'm old
waiting
enough,
for
so I
you
went
to
back and started
discover
watching all these old horror
it
movies.
because it's
And
really something fun.
The
and
dumber
something
ones are
special,
my
and
favorite.
I'm excited
I don't
to
like it when
speak
they try to be too serious.
TS about it
So
and about its
I like
creation.
Evil Dead was a huge
and
one
I
for
welcome
me,
you
and
to
anything
listen along.
related to that.
Thanks for joining us.
House 2 was one of my favorite movies still.
Yeah, which is, it's funny because it's not, clearly not the classic the original is, but it's so weird that it's surprising that people don't talk about it more. It kind of has a dinosaur, kind of has a cowboy.
Yeah,
It's very
the cowboy
weird.
guy is just. Yeah, I always got him mixed up with the Jacob Marley's Ghost and Scrooged. Like they had a very similar vibe. They're just kind of like the same rotten style. I wish somebody would do something like that again. Like the really prosthetic zombie, but the dried up zombie. They're always juicy now. These guys were like,
Yeah. You want more like a jerky.
yeah, a nice desiccated corpse.
It's funny that you mentioned the Freddy Gate because so in the Detroit area they had a show called Chiller Double Feature, and they'd show two scary movies on Saturdays, and the intro was a bunch of clips, and that was honestly that's one of my favorite zombie movies. My favorite movies is Children Shouldn't Play Dead Things, and part of it's because they showed so many clips from it in the intro to this show, like this 2 hour block. But the music they used was the isolated kind of scream part from A Whole Lot of Love. The weird where Jimmy Page was using a bow on his guitar, and you hear Jimmy Robert Plant like "Ah, ah,"
Yeah,
and it scared the crap out of me. And it's still like seeing that play it's taken away from the song. It's so creepy. So I get
that's
that.
amazing.
I
It's like a smell or something for me. Like it just triggers something. And going back and watching, and there was a kid in my class who was absolutely obsessed with Freddy. He had the mask, the hat, the sweater, the glove. He was an only child, and we had Halloween at school, and he just shows up as a full-on Freddy, and the teachers were kind of like, "You can't wear the mask. You can't wear the mask." He was great.
Freddy's an interesting character too because um like after the pop after the first movies came out, they tried to make him kind of a pop culture figure, which is really weird, like a weird turn for him. It's very strange.
Well, no one ever wants to talk about what it was that led to him being killed in the first place.
Yes.
I mean, he's basically a Jeffrey Epstein serial killer.
Yes, yeah. He's a child killer.
He was more of a monster before he became a monster.
Yeah.
Because he stopped doing those things after he became a nightmare demon. Before that, he was a bigger monster than he became, which is, I think they're just happy to not address that angle ever again.
And it's funny, I was talking to somebody about this. It's the crazy part that you never think about is imagine the audacity of Freddy that like to do the things he did, to be murdered righteously and then return to get revenge because he's like, how
Yeah.
dare you?
Yeah, he's kind of like the Crow, except for in reverse. Like,
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting though. So when did you first kind of fall in love with telling stories and wanting to tell stories?
well, I always wanted to make movies throughout my whole childhood, and then I got into comic books, and I would make up the stories, but I never wrote anything down. I have all kinds of undiagnosed number and letter issues, and it wasn't until I got a computer that I figured out that I could write now because it was like, oh, here's what you're trying to say, stupid. And I'm like, yes, that's the word. And so that helped a lot. But basically, I would draw all these pictures and then I'd show somebody like one picture and then I would tell them an hour and a half long story about the picture. And then his father, you see, now he was, and I just go on and on and on. I had them all memorized. And, once I got into my 20s, I decided it was time to start writing things down. And yeah, I started writing the DeGrave Brothers podcast as I started writing a creepy, um, like just shy of young adult style Christmas story. So I thought there's not enough spooky Christmas stuff, um, and I was working on that for like a year, and I just got so sick of holding back because it's kind of like there's horror adjacent stuff in it, but like watered down, and I wanted to just really let it rip. And I had these two characters in the back of my mind forever, Doug DeGrave and Phil DeGrave. I thought, well, let's just make something up for them. And I got fairly intoxicated one night and lay in bed. And there's a scene in the movie Chaplin where they're asking him, like, how'd you come up with the character? And he's basically describes how he went into this room and the hat called to him and the cane called to him and he put them all together and he stood in the mirror and it happened and they're like, really? And he's like, no, I had like 5 seconds. I just grabbed a bunch of shit and put it on and ran out there. But and see, mine is the opposite. As stupid of a storyline as the DeGrave Brothers is, I was laying in bed and I just basically dreamt the first like 4 episodes of the podcast while I was awake. I was just laying there, and the whole thing with the dialogue was just playing in my head like I was watching it. It was really wild. I didn't really have much to do with it. So I was like, I should write some of this down. And so that's what I did. And then it took me about 13 years to figure out how it ended because I shelved it and I'd pull it out and look at it and shelve it. And but that's kind of that epic story, I guess.
Well,
how I made.
Oh no, go ahead, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna self-deprecate a little bit more. So you go ahead.
When did you first want to do a podcast? That's a big leap from just kind of wanting to tell stories, like doing it that way.
Well, when I wrote it as a book, I thought I did, and then reading it, like my narrative is always very short, and then there's a lot of dialogue because I just like that. Like that's what I want to read when I read. I don't need a whole lot of setting descriptions. I can hook all that up in my head. So I focused a lot on the dialogue and even my narrative. A lot of the narrative in the podcast was I just turned that into lines that they say because their narration is also kind of like dialogue, the way that I wrote it. Like when Doug's describing how coffins open, that was all in the narrative. I just had Doug say it. But I guess I was listening to a lot of podcasts. I had a job where I drove around all day, and I started discovering all these horror audio podcasts, audio dramas. And I don't know when it was that it finally clicked. I was like, well, I was actually thinking about the DeGrave Brothers and about how I wish I could find a podcast that was about horror, but it was more like character driven and how Evil Dead is funny, but it's not a comedy. It's like a dumb guy in a serious world is what I've always liked. I don't like it when the horror is silly and stupid. Like take Ernest P. Worrell and stick him in like The Shining, and that's a movie for me. Like everything's real, everything's bad, but he's still like, oh man, look at that. It's just like I love that juxtaposition, and I couldn't find anything like that. And so I just made it, and I thought maybe there would be a little corner of the podcasting world I could try to get into. I may have used a little too much profanity from some of the responses, but I was like, that's just how the characters talk to me.
Really? That's funny. I don't know. That's funny to me because that feels very pearl clutchy because it fits. It very much fits. It's not as if it's a podcast about children and you're making children cursing just because, oh, well, that's funny. It's like, no,
Oh yeah.
this it sounds natural. Like this is how these guys speak. So why would they speak
Yeah.
otherwise?
I mean, they're loosely based off of, well, first of all, they're based off of like every buddy comedy from the 80s and 90s. Obviously, like the Blues Brothers was one of my favorite movies as a kid. Like as a little kid, I just was obsessed with it. I wanted to be those guys. I wanted to dress like those guys. Bill and Ted was massively important to me as a kid, but I kind of got off on a tangent there.
No, that's all, no, it's all right.
But yeah, I mean, they're kind of based on my brother and me. My brother is just a guy that says stuff that you just can't believe that anybody would ever say it. But he's so charming, he gets away with it. And then I was always not confident. And that's kind of Phil's character. He's just kind of like, eh. And I don't know. I made him have vaguely like Brooklyn-y, New York-y accents because those are two accents I could do. Where it would sound like they were brothers, like I could do two different. It was either that or they would be Scottish, and then they would just end up sounding like fat bastard. My Scottish impression is basically just a Mike Myers impression.
Now, why did a podcast feel the most natural way to tell their story?
I think it's the only thing that I could do that I thought would be fast enough. I don't have the ability to produce a television show that's going to be because I mean it was a movie, television show, or podcast because it's all dialogue. It's these characters interacting with each other a lot, and there's just no way I was going to be able to put together anything that would be even remotely um, polished. If I try to make something visual, I can draw and I can animate, so I consider doing a cartoon, but essentially the podcast, everything I did to make the podcast would have been the first step to making the cartoon, and then I would have had to have animated the whole thing. So I did it anyway, and I still can just take that and animate it if I ever want to. It would be very crudely animated, but I could do it. But really, it was just Will Eisner, the comic book hero who made the Spirit and the Eisner Award.
Yeah.
I don't remember the exact quote, but he was essentially saying how he had all these things that he was somewhat okay at. He was an okay artist, he was an okay inker, he's an okay writer, he was okay at writing dialogue. And so we thought, if I take all these things that I'm kind of okay at and I put them all together, I might make something that's decent. And that's what I was hoping to do. That was kind of my philosophy going into it is, well, I mean, I'm okay at doing voices. I think I'm pretty good at writing funny one-liners. I'm pretty good at getting people together to do things that they probably wouldn't normally do. Which, I mean, casting this thing was more work than anything. And I just got really lucky with the cast. So they really pulled through.
Well, got one more question. Then we're actually going to get into some of that. Were there other podcasts that kind of or other media that inspired kind of pulling the DeGrave Brothers podcast together? I mean, and again, I get into this a little later. Like, it's the obvious inspiration is there, but like, was there anything that kind of, well, that really kind of sparked like, oh, I kind of like what they're doing.
Like specific podcasts, yeah.
Or just in general, even.
Oh well,
either way.
There are some specific podcasts. Old Gods of Appalachia was one of the ones where I was just like, this is really cool. Like, this is something different. But I knew I couldn't write that the narrative part nearly as well. Not that I had to compare myself to that one, but I was just like, wow, these guys are amazing at that. I could use more dialogue in that podcast, though, to be honest. And it does do that later on. The first episodes are like a novel with occasional speaking, and then by like season 2 or 3, it starts to get more dialogue based. But anyway, yeah, can't really think of any other podcasts that really jump out at me. And comic book wise, Hellboy was a huge one for me. But
I can see that. I can absolutely see that.
Yeah, just the idea of like just kicking the crap out of your protagonist constantly. The Goon was a comic book
What's
that
funny is I was thinking like as you're saying that in my mind, I'm like seeing like the way he draws like his size is like that. So yeah, I was just like, what the heck is the name of that? Because I associate that with Mike Mignola for. I mean, they've worked I think on stuff together, but
there's
like
been crossovers.
yeah,
There has been.
but that's funny you say that though. So I can see that.
Yeah, and I don't think any of those things inspired the DeGrave Brothers. I think I could always kind of tell where that well was that all those guys are drawing from, and I just wanted to see if I could do it too. So, and I do feel like Evil Dead was. I had a friend who, in high school, started making latex monster masks. He ordered videotapes back in the day. He got actual VHS tapes on how to do it, and he sculpted and made all these crazy monster masks. And he introduced me to Evil Dead, and I was just blown away. And I was like, I never stopped thinking about zombie movies after that, basically, just about how cool of a world it was. I was talking with my sister about why she thought zombie movies were so popular. And she goes, it's because like when you walk around through town and you see all these stupid people and you just wish you could bash their heads in. And in a zombie movie, you can. It's like, that may be true.
That's fair. Now tell me, for folks that have never listened, tell me about the DeGrave Brothers podcast.
Well, Doug DeGrave and Phil DeGrave and their father, Barry DeGrave, who's known through, I don't even think his first name comes up, maybe at the very end, but he's Pops. They are deadbeat, dysfunctional, grave robbing family members. And they go out and they're doing their work, talking shit to each other and, just doing drugs and digging up dead bodies and robbing them. And one of them pops to life and starts to attack Phil. I mean, I don't think you wanted me to necessarily just give the whole plot away, but but yeah, I mean, essentially that's the stepping stone because that's when you realize that zombie's attacking him. The zombie gets killed, obviously, and that's when and the reaction of the father is like, Jesus Christ, it's only a zombie. And that's when you're like, oh, I'm in a world where that happens. Okay, so this isn't like world shattering, it's just like, oh, there's zombies in this world. But it's not something that's going to be like so typical that it's a huge part of the world. Like imagine if aliens really did come down and they pretty much just interacted with politicians and maybe you'd occasionally see a spaceship zoom by and you'd be like, oh, that's right. There's aliens live with us now. Because like you still got your shit to do. Like it's not like aliens are here. I don't have to go and work at the gas station anymore. Like, no, it doesn't make a difference. So in my world, there are they're creatures, but they don't really come up that often. And the DeGrave brother, go ahead.
Oh no, I like that it feels like that aspect of it is very much just it's an inconvenient part of the job. Like, ugh,
yeah,
like got this again. Now we got to do like it's more of a hassle until it kind of gets into the bigger thing.
It's like sneaking through somebody's house and they got a dog in it. You're like, damn it. Yeah. But in this instance, it's not just some run-of-the-mill reanimated corpse like that you might come across. It's there's some major witchcraft in the cemetery that night, and they get caught up in something big, and it just snowballs from there. Eventually, Phil, who has really been questioning their lifestyle, decides that it's a good opportunity to try to convince Doug to switch from being grave robbers to monster exterminators, which is kind of like bounty hunters in my world. It's like a, you know, proto semi-legal sort of situation. And he convinces Doug to do it. And their first case actually ends up reconnecting them back to that first case in the graveyard. And, I tried not to make it too like end of the worldy, but they definitely have to take on some forces that they are way ill-equipped to deal with because they're very stupid and horrible to each other.
Which, I mean, I think that's why people love, Ashley Williams, and I think they'll love these characters is they are like they're wily, but they're kind of dumb. Like it's not just luck. Like, oh well, like the zombie stepped on a rake and then they fell in a hole. It's like
Oh,
they
no,
can figure
yeah.
things out. It's just
Yeah.
that they're very, very kind of simple. Like,
Right, right. Like their fighting style would be like essentially like the barroom guy who picks a cue ball up and throws it across the bar and hits you in the eye and then breaks a bottle and gets you in the leg and then he runs away and you run outside and he's out there and he hits you in the head with a bat as you come through the doorway. Like you would have kicked his ass had he not outwitted you at every turn. Like that's Phil and Doug. They're just like doing their best and they're pretty good at just making it through.
yeah, no,
And yeah, I just had a lot of fun kicking the crap out of them throughout the whole thing because they get brutalized, especially Doug.
now this is, I don't know how big a question. What goes into creating an episode? Because you like, you know, I it's impressive how much like soup to nuts you are like. This isn't you like handing things off and you just like wrote an episode. You are writing
Yeah.
and acting and doing all of the things.
Yeah. Well, um, like I said, I wrote the first like 4 or 5 chapters of it 13 years ago when I was living in an RV in the woods out in the middle of nowhere. Um, and then I just shelved it, and I've had a lot of life between then and now, and finally pulled it back out. I spent about a year developing the book into the multiple scripts, and I mean, I was editing dialogue and plot points the day before I would go and record, just changing things and changing things. It's like it's never done. It's like that story where somebody caught an old man defacing a painting in a museum and like turned around and it was Da Vinci or something like that. Like, you just can't ever stop fiddling with it. I actually still want to go into some of the later episodes and adjust some of the sound levels because I feel like my computer lowered the music levels down when I did some audio tricks. I don't know how to edit audio. I use the internet. ChatGPT told me how to use Audition. And so like, yeah, I just wrote it and then I had to find a place to record it. I can't even begin to tell you what a nightmare that was. I bought a mic, but it was the wrong kind. It picks up everything. I mean, you could hear like ants farting in the walls and like I live in the country and diesel trucks driving by constantly and I mean, you hear them for miles. You got your headphones on and you're just waiting and waiting. I'm like, I can't do this. So the public library has a podcast studio and I go there, but it's downtown. Harley's going by, cars honking, and it picks it all up. And I'm like, that'd be fine if I was doing like so tell me about yourself sort of podcast. But I wasn't. It had to be like perfectly locked in. Like you couldn't have any other sound. And then I found the guy to do the voice for Pops because I was originally going to try to do Pops too. It was going to be, but that was just crazy because it was me talking to me, talking to me. And that's too much me even for me. So I found a guy with just an absolute like Tom Waits type voice. Like his name's Michael Russell, and he's was just an absolute amazing guy. He looks like Pops. He's got long white hair and a long white beard and this crazy cool voice, but he's the exact opposite of Pops. He's just like kind elfin man who's just like the sweetest guy in the world. And I mean, he doesn't take shit, but he's very sweet. And he offered to let me use his fantastic recording studio, and that's how I was able to record it. And I would just go to his house and record and come back to my house and string it together, listen to videos, learn how to do it. But I just did it all, just figured it out.
So you said it was
Always
hard finding the cast. How did you track the cast down?
Um, I got on a friend of mine who makes little movies and stuff. He told me about Backstage, which is like where actors go and post their resumes and stuff. And I just looked for, originally I was looking for only people in my area because I wanted to work with them directly. And that's how I found Michael. And he was the first person to say yes. And I was like excited then because it wasn't just me. I didn't even know what I was going to do for the female parts. Um, and then on TikTok, I randomly came across this young woman doing character voices, and well, I'm gonna reach out to her. Why not? So I did. She's like, sure, send me more. So I was like, okay. And I was apprehensive to do that because basically I I would start dialogue with female actors on Backstage. They'd be interested. I'd send them the script and they'd be like, I'm not doing that. Because like they're concerned about like the level of raunchiness and crudeness of the humor and the sexual jokes. Like if you don't nail that stuff correctly, you just read that on paper, it could almost read like, is this softcore, like, but when it's done and it's produced correctly, you realize that it's all like it's funny.
Yeah.
But anyway, she got the jokes. She got all the jokes, and as actresses would continue to either not be interested or back out, I started learning that her name's Sophia Puritz, she's like my own Mel Blanc. She does like almost every female character except for Stryker. That's Rose Alexander. And she just, I would message her and be like, hey, do you do like a Southern prostitute voice? And she's like, sure. And she was Candy. And I mean, it gets a little weird at the end because she plays both witch sisters and their voices are very similar. But I worked with what I had,
Yeah.
a budget of nothing. Yeah. And then the girl who did Stryker, that was a big one. That's Rose Alexander. Stryker is this tall, like she's like Elvira on steroids, like except for very mean. Actually, kind of based her personality off of. Do you remember the movie Willow?
Yeah.
Mad Mardigan, this sword and sorcery movie. Um, the wizard's the witch's daughter, the Sorsha. She's just like this really just badass swordswoman, and just has an incredible personality. And I was like, I want her to just be like authentically intimidating. And I found somebody who could do that with Rose, and she was fantastic. And so, yeah, I mean, basically, my only thing now is like, I've done everything. I figured everything out and I got it all out there. And now I'm like, all right, how do I get anybody to listen to this thing? Like, there are days when I'll be like, wow, look at how many people listen. But most days I'm like, oh, man. It's just,
I gotta say, like I'm like was really really impressed at like how it sounds great. Like, um, I would never have guessed that this was kind of just it's essentially your first shot, really kind of going to it. Like it doesn't
yeah,
sound like that at all.
yeah. I, I, a few months ago, I started listening to it again because I was scared to listen to it because I thought maybe I would be like, oh my God, what were you thinking? But I actually liked it. Like I had been away from it long enough because it takes so long to make this stuff that by the time I got around to listening to it again, I like didn't remember every single little thing. And I don't know, episode 2 to me was just awesome. Like the sheriff character and the character of Janet, I just thought that they were fantastic. And it was a fun one.
Now, do you have a long-term story in mind for the brothers, or are you just kind of or an end game, or are you just kind of
I
building it?
I do. I kind of this was like a full-time job hobby while also having full-time job and children and a wife, and I live on a farm. So basically my wife was like, and this wasn't her saying it, this was me saying this to her. Like if it doesn't at least do like fairly well, I may not do like another season the way that I did the first one. I may do like little one-shot adventures essentially while I hope that I do believe that this thing will become a cult classic if I could get someone to if the right people watch it or listen to it. So you watch it. It's very visual to me, the podcast. It feels like a movie.
Yeah.
to me, like you're listening to a movie. But right now, I'm actually writing a pop uh, mini story to bridge the gap. I just thought, like, people who do listen to it and talk to me, they're like, the Pop's character is fantastic, and I agree. And like, I can't believe you killed him, and I'm like, I know, but when I killed him, I didn't have Michael doing the voice, and I might have kept him around somehow, but I don't know. I wanted to kill off characters, just kind of the Game of Thrones concept too, I guess. Like I wasn't inspired by Game of Thrones. I think I may have started writing this before Game of Thrones even came out, the movie or the TV show. But yeah, I always want to keep people on their toes and also let the story go where it's supposed to go. And story killed Pops. I didn't do it. But it would be a story from his previous life before he took on the boys and was doing his own adventuring.
Which is, I mean that works because going back to Hellboy again and the whole BPRBD and stuff, they kind of finished that whole story and still like we're like we can tell there's all manner of stories to tell way back in the day and
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
like I'm sure there's lots of stuff because you learn a lot more about Pop at the as things go along. So yeah, there's clearly a lot more to know about him.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think it really matters if we give too much away, but there's a book of magic involved in the story, and Pops had that at one time, and how did he get that? And like his guns have some like qualities that are mysterious, and how did he get those? And some of those things are addressed in the story I'm working on, which is going to be a spaghetti western horror story, basically. It's like
Nice.
it's like a Sergio Leone type world that Pops is going to live in this one. It's all in New Mexico, and it's going to be yeah, it's going to be a lot different, but same vibe though.
That is awesome. How can folks track like the podcast and all your socials and stuff down? Just like so if when they want to check this out.
Well, I use at DeGrave Pod, and then DeGravePod at gmail.com if you want to reach out. Had a few people reach out. I need to go back in to the podcast and add little more hooks and telling people like how to get more involved. But I do have an Instagram at DeGravePod. And there's a TikTok, but it was just like my TikTok, and then I just like changed the name of it. And I don't really do much with it because it's really hard to get people to leave TikTok to look at other things, like pretty much impossible. Um, so I mean, if you got to make stuff for TikTok on TikTok. But yeah, it's basically it. I don't really have much going on in that regard. Um, Probably should do some Discords but it's just so many things. It's just the insane amount of things that they throw at you. You got to do, and without any help, it's just a lot.
No, I can understand. So when folks discover it, what is, at the end of the day, what do you hope people come away with from listening to it? Like, what do you hope they take from it?
I just always wanted, as a kid, one of my dreams was to always have characters that people just kind of like would reference, like the way that you might be like reference a Dracula type of character, or even my kids reference Beavis and Butthead, and how they even know about it is kind of beyond me, or how they knew about it. I ended up letting them watch it later on, but initially I was like, how do you even know about that? Like, I don't know. I sometimes feel like things just float through the ether. You just kind of pick them up, collective unconsciousness or something. But um, I hope people just have fun with it and are able to just kind of escape into a different world. And I hope they can see it in their heads the way that I do. Like punk rock, leather jackets, and like not Night of the Return of the Living Dead style, like just garbage punk monsters and just fun. Oh, yeah, I should shout out the Carrion Crawlers, the band who they listened to their tape in the first episode. They're listening to their music. I was on TikTok and this Lakota, like they live on an Indian reservation, and they're a young group of punk rock guys. And I was like, this is insanely perfect. Like, cause I use Artlist which is where people like post their music and sound effects and stuff, and then you pay a monthly fee, and that's how you're able to get sound effects. Because otherwise, you have to buy them all in packages, and that's insane. Um, and I couldn't find any punk that sounded real, because punk you can't fake it. Like you have to, like punk's just one of those things. Like you can't just like be like, well, here's a punk number. And I found this actual band, and I reached out to them, and in true punk fashion, they swore up and down. They wrote me an email saying that they swore they wouldn't sue me if they got big, and and they're like, just use whatever you want.
That's
And
awesome.
I love their music.
That is.
I still listen to them. Yeah, I didn't know if it was gonna be cheesy, but I did have Doug say the name of the band in the podcast because I was like, screw it. I just think it's so cool that they let me use it.
Well, I mean, and people, we talk about stuff we like. We name names in real life, so it seems fair. Well, thank you so much for making some time, especially like I said, like you're a little under the weather, so I appreciate you making time to talk with me. This has been great, and I can't recommend the podcast enough. It's a really great time, so thank you so much.
I appreciate that a lot. And keep doing what you've been doing.
I don't know what that is, but okay.
Well, I checked out your stuff before I reached out, and I think like that's really cool to be like. I feel like you're kind of. I don't know where you're at fan base wise, but I feel like you're kind of doing the same thing that I'm doing. You're just like you can't just hope things happen. You gotta just make things happen. So you gotta throw stuff out there and see if anything sticks.
This is true. Well, thank you, and I look forward to speaking with you in the future, and I can't wait to hear more of their adventures. You take care.
I appreciate it. You have a good one.
All right, take care. Bye.
Bye.
I want to thank T.S. O'Banion for making time for me. I cannot recommend DeGrave Brothers podcast any higher anymore. It is really great. If you love 80s horror, if you love Evil Dead, and like I said, House, and just that kind of madcap splatter horror, really fun horror, this is perfect for you. And I agree with him. I really can see this becoming kind of a cult hit. And hopefully, you will discover it now and fall in love with it just like I did. It really is great. And like I said, just look up DeGrave Podcast and you will track it down. It's the first season is finished, and it's really, really a great time. You can find me on spookychris.com and all my podcasts, all my books, and all of the rigmarole. I appreciate you stopping by, friend, and I will wish you well. And stay weird, strange, odd, whatever, like all those little catchphrases have been used. But just stay you, man. Stay cool. I'll talk to you soon.